Hey guys, so we're obviously here today to talk about my personal impact on organizations through my leadership. So I'm going to break this up into three different sections. Those are going to be talking about senior design, talking about my internship at Eaton, and then talking about TEDx. Represent. So I want to start out first by talking a little bit about my strengths. So that was like something that was the first introduction to the E-Lead program for me and something I've used ever since. So input, learner, harmony, restoration, and intellection are my five. And so those have sort of laid the basis. I sort of viewed it as someone who likes to collect information and knowledge and use it to solve problems with other people. And so that's what I've tried to do during these three groups. Senior design was something totally new for me in terms of like working with four women. I've never had that in an engineering project before, and it was very refreshing, very great. I think I helped out a ton with the forming part of our group in the forming, norming, storming, and performing model of team development. So I think I helped create a really good environment where people felt open to talk and we were really comfortable with each other and we started to be able to trust each other. I also, at this point, we were going through ELEAD 3, and I remember we were in Innovation Bootcamp, and we were talking about whether or not we were a knower or a learner, and I was like wavering. I couldn't tell which one I was, and Grace Scarum turns to me and goes, "Lewis, you're a knower." And so she put me in my place, and I realized that I was doing that a lot in my senior design group, where I was trying to come up with all the solutions and trying to be the one to solve all the problems. And that was helpful in certain cases, like when I'm the only electrical engineer, that's what I need to do. But I think our group did far better when I took a step back and tried to extract a lot of knowledge and use innovators DNA strengths of like questioning and networking to really talk through problems with my teammates. So I think I'm going to try and shift and do that more as time goes forward. At Eaton, in my internship, for the context of my project, you guys have heard this before, but we're working on a mobile app, and that's completely different from all the other projects at the company. Basically, we normally do like electrical hardware components. I really loved the organization at first and really loved our project after the summer. I was absolutely raving about it. There's a really great culture, a lot of good leaders there. After Elite 3, though, I started to see the flaws in how our organization approached innovation. So if we think about how Stella saved the farm, if we think about the other side of innovation, the division wasn't set up in the proper way where there's a separate structure that evaluates the performance of the innovation team. We had a ton of problems with the performance engine versus the innovation team, and I was mostly on the innovation team. So I think I helped out on that in terms of giving software developers new perspectives on like design thinking principles. But I was also hurting our end goal a little bit, and I didn't realize this till I read the other side of innovation, in that the innovation team needs to appreciate the performance engine because they are truly the ones who pay for everything, that make the trains run on time. And so I think I could be more diplomatic in terms of framing things for other members of my division that aren't on the innovation team. A lot of people are very concerned about profit and loss, P&L, and so I should frame it as a way of, hey, this is a way we're going to be able to stay relevant in our business if we keep developing this mobile app and if we're successful at it. And if we lag behind our competition, we're going to be left in the dust, absolutely. So framing it in that almost dire way, but also not that unrealistic, I think would be better to get organizational cohesiveness down. Then the last leadership experience I want to talk about is TEDx. So I can break down TEDx into three separate years, really. The first year before we were actually TED was just me and two other students doing all the work, all the marketing, coaching speakers, all the events and logistics, and we were miserable. It was way too much work for three people. We were able to do it. Things went okay, but we knew that we needed to grow after that if we were going to have any sort of long-term success. Luckily, we had some transfer students and grad students come in, and we were able to get an official TED license. And all of a sudden, our team jumped from 3 people to 5 people to 20 people. And this was completely different than what I had been doing. In the first year, I had been focused on like doing a lot of the work leading with people. Second year, it was about leading others, and going along with year two of E-Lead. That's what class I was in at the time. I tried to really make sure that we were comfortable with each other and could have those harsh, frank discussions, and be open to conflict. So the moment I knew we succeeded in this was the first time we chose speakers. And we had a 2 hour long meeting where emotions were high, tensions were high, and we got everything out there. I didn't want to vote on who was a speaker because that means that it would just be majority rules. And I wanted us to go through all the arguments for and against people and come to a cohesive decision. And that meant that people who had their opinions heard would be more likely to buy in afterwards. And we were also able to get over that second dysfunction of a team, a fear of conflict. My third year, I knew that I was going to be graduating. And so I said, this year, my goal is not necessarily to host a great event, but it's to develop the leaders of the future to be able to take over, because I wanted to make something that would last longer than me here at Marquette. So I thought I was fairly successful in this, but I knew I was successful actually a few weeks ago on spring break. I didn't have service for 48 hours, and I finally get service, and we're getting all these news about like the NBA cancellations and travel restrictions, and then we get the email from Marquette that classes are canceled. I call my executive team from a Whataburger in Texas and say, hey, I'm not going to be like available very much. I'm going to be driving. I'm going to have very little cell service. I need you guys to take care of this. And so the next time I got service, I checked my email, and they had come up with an amazing plan to mitigate this disaster. We were going to have the event 10 days from them the following Saturday. And so obviously there was no school, so we couldn't host it. And they communicated their plan to the team beautifully, talked to all relevant parties. And so I just felt so confident that, hey, like, this organization is going to be fine without me. And I knew that I did well because I just decided to invest in other people. I just invested the time of making sure that I had these conversations about leadership and what these students want to do, both in TED and beyond it. So that was something I was really proud of. And reflecting on my leadership journey overall, I think that I do best when I try and leverage the strengths of everyone around me. To use a basketball analogy, I want to be more like Bill Russell. So Bill Russell, 11-time NBA champion, he would scout his teammates and then adjust his game to maximize their strengths and minimize their weaknesses. And so that his book Second Wind is like one of my all-time favorites, and it really embodies everything I want to be in a leader in terms of getting the best out of your teammates and trying to be a leader. So thank you all for listening. Hope you all have a good quarantine.